Islam, peace, Hotep. First, we're gonna rise and we're gonna do the honors, or we're gonna sit. Whatever you want to do. You know, we're Moors, so we do what we do. All right. Five on the left, two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace and Hotep. Before we get started off today, we're gonna just get some things out the way. We want to send condolences to the family of a good brethren that just recently passed away, Brother Sub. Everybody knows him as Sub Z. You know, we just want to put him up, so you know his name and his memory lives on, and we're not dealing with no mourning and none of that stuff, because once you go to the spirit plane, once you go to the astral plane and you're back with the ancestors, everything's good. And we know the saying that you're now in a better place and all that. So rest in power, rest in Hotep to Brother Sub. You know what I mean? And you're not going to be missed, because remember you forever. Islam. Secondly, one of the Moors put this one on me. There was an elder by the name of Chinua Achebe. I hope I pronounce his name right. Just read his little bio here. Chinua Achebe, novelist, poet, professor, and critic. He was best known for his first novel and magnum opus, Things Fall Apart, in 1958, which is the most widely read book in modern African literature. Raised by his parents in the Igbo town of Ogidi in southeastern Nigeria, Achebe excelled at school and won a scholarship for undergraduate studies. He became fascinated with world religions and traditional African cultures and began writing stories as a university student. After graduation, he worked for the Nigerian Broadcasting Service and soon moved to the metropolis of Lagos. Achebe wrote his novels in English and defended the use of English, a language of colonizers, in African literature. In 1975, his lecture, An Image of Africa, Racism in Conrad's Heart of Darkness, featured a famous criticism of Joseph Conrad as a bloody racist. It was later published amid some controversy. When the region of Biafra broke away from Nigeria in 1967, Achebe became a supporter of Biafran independence and acted as ambassador for the people of the new nation. The war ravaged the populace, and as starvation and violence took its toll, he appealed to the people of Europe and Americas for aid. When the Nigerian government retook the region in 1970, he involved himself in political parties but soon resigned due to frustration over the corruption and elitism he witnessed. He lived in the United States for several years in the 1970s and returned to the US in 1990 after a car accident left him partially disabled. Achebe's novels focus on the traditions of Igbo society, the effect of Christian influences, and the clash of Western and traditional African values during and after the colonial era. His style relies heavily on the Igbo oral tradition and combines straightforward narration with representations of folk stories, proverbs, and oratory. He also published a number of short stories, children's books, and essays collections. From 2009 until his death, he served as a professor at Brown University in the United States. So we want to give honors to Elder Chinua Achebe, who's now with the ancestors, And the reason why the Moor sent this to me, I know why, because Brother Achebe, Elder Achebe, was known for rocking his fez. It was a common practice for him, right? Remember, we talk about Africa, so-called Africa, South Asia is part of the Moroccan Empire. So the culture of the Moors transcends boundaries. The culture of the Moors is clearly evident amongst many people of the continent. And don't get caught up in, Congo stories and all that with people in fezzes dealing with their own people unjustly. All right? Point is that the headwear is ours. And we need to honor and we need to respect it. All right? So Islam to Brother Amore El-Bey, who sent this to me earlier today or yesterday or something like that. All right? So we continue on. All right? This weekend, this Saturday, March 30th, 2013, the legendary Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, MD, live in Toronto. So this weekend, the elder Francis Cress Welsing in Toronto. So if you're in Toronto, you're going to want to be at this lecture. Where? York University, Curtis Lecture Hall 1, beside the Vary Hall. And that the doors open at 1 p.m. The lecture begins at 5 p.m. sharp. Dr. Welsing addresses the questions: what is racism? Why does racism exist? How does racism work? World-renowned psychiatrist, author, and lecturer will dissect the most destructive social power dynamic on the planet, racism. Most importantly, she will offer up solutions on how we can be part of the process of replacing the system of racism with a system of peace and justice on the planet. So if you want information on the Francis Cress Welsing lecture, you can go to jumariaswellness.com, or JUMARIASWELLNESS.com, or you can call 647-919-0466. All right, so jumariaswellness.com and 647-919-0466. Now, not only is this going to be a lecture, this is also a collective economic calling, because the brothers and sisters that are putting together the Francis Cress Welsing lecture are as well making this sort of unity entrepreneurs expo, where all the different schools of thought are in our jurisdiction are going to come together, right, to present, have their products, services, etc. that they provide to the city at this event, right? Now, what's epic about this, right? The security for this event, right? The security for this event is going to be the Fruits of Islam, the Mufti Force of the Moorish Science Temple of America for Canaanland, as well as the Nation of Gods and Earths. We'll call them bodyguard service, all right? Because the brothers in the Nation of Gods and Earths out here, they have their own dojo out here, all right? So this is going to be something that's never happened before out here, because we this is not something, consciousness isn't something that we're new to out here, right? So this is going to be the first time ever, right, that these three organizations, right? Mufti Force, right? The Mufti Force, the Fruits of Islam, and the Nation of Gods and Earths are going to be coming together to form a super security force for Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And again, you know, we have to big up the family that's putting this together, because they're the ones that's spearheading this ideal of all of us coming together, right? And coming together on the aspect of getting down with nationality and birthrights, to be honest with you, right? Putting away whatever it is that has caused, you know, separation amongst us, and using nationality as the thread to put these different fabrics of consciousness together. All right. So I want to big up to the brothers in the NOI that stepped up to make sure they, you know, come by the temple, check out class, you know, on a regular basis. You know, it's not anything new. All right. It's nothing new, right? NOI been coming to our classes, so we want to big up to those brothers, those Moors, who took the necessary steps to make sure that they're present, right? Also, too, we want to send a shout out to the Nation of Gods and Earths, and I wanted to actually plug something that I found. I know the Nation of Gods and Earths been in the city, because before I got on consciousness, right? Before I got on consciousness, when I was a, you know, dead rapper, right? The first article, the first magazine to ever recognize me, the first magazine to ever say, let's give this brother an article in the magazine, is Feedback Magazine. This is old school right here, right? This is Foundation Toronto Hip Hop Magazine, that was put out by one of the Nation of Gods and Earths by the name of Lord Sanatic. I don't even know if brother's still around, where he's at, but I wanted to big up the Nation of Gods and Earths, because on Sunday, Brother King, one of the Nation of Gods and Earths out here, came by the class, you know what I mean? And the brothers are definitely looking to build and connect with the Moors, so we can strengthen our core out here. All right, we're looking to bring both dojos together, the Kupigane and Gumi Center and the Nation of Gods and Earths dojo. We're looking to bring them together. We're looking to unite. All right, so we're setting a standard for others who are out there that are playing separation games. We're not dealing with the separation right now. We're bringing it all together, because trust me, everybody's starting to realize the importance of nationality and birthrights, and people are getting on board, right? Got a call today from somebody, a sister. She seen the video, she's getting down. We're getting calls from Colorado, we're getting calls from Tennessee, we're getting calls from all over the country, right? Brothers and sisters who have been in the community are doing their own studying on the outside, and they're now starting to see that this is something real. This is not just some group or whatever that, you know, they're getting involved in again. This is actually them getting back what was lost, right? Them getting back what is already in them that they forgot about. All right, so I want to big up the Nation of Gods and Earths once again, and the Nation of Islam and the Fruits of Islam for stepping up, right, and taking their place amongst the affairs of men, so that we can protect our elder that's going to be here this weekend for the lecture. And again, just to plug it one more time, Saturday, March 30th, tickets are $15 in advance, $20 at the door. The legendary Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, York University Curtis Lecture Hall. Doors open at 1 p.m. Lecture starts at 5 p.m. From what I understand, there's going to be maybe about 27 vendors or something like that. So make sure you go, empty out your bank accounts and all that and come and support your own. Because that's another reason why we're in the situation that we're in as a people, because we don't support our own. We want to support, we want to give Bell our money, we want to give Rogers our money, we want to go give, Toronto Hydro and all these other alphabet soup organizations that don't have our best interests at heart. And then the people who have your best interests at heart, you don't support them. So make sure, you come with at least, there's 27 vendors. All right. So if you come with a 50, you could at least put 10 in each vendor, right, that you think is worthy of getting something. And if everybody comes with 50, right, then you'll be able to get something beneficial for yourself so that we can start at least the process of supporting our own and getting into the practice of supporting our own. Because as we know, in our multicultural jurisdiction called Toronto, as we know, there's ample amount of nations here other than ours, Negro, black, colored nations, and all of them support their own stuff, right? They got Greek festival, everybody goes to Greek festival. They got Italian festival, everybody goes to that. You don't see them coming to your stuff, but we go on Danforth and go march and go eat Slovakia and all that type of stuff to go support them, right? They don't even come to Caravana and all that. So we got to start pushing our own, all right? We're going to go to the Red Book. Once again, this is what is known as the Red Book. This is the book that is the second part. This is the second part of the Holy Quran, Circle 7. Right? This is the second part of the Holy Quran, Circle 7. That the sellout dirty Moors took and hid in the Adab chamber. So if you are in a temple, Moorish Science Temple of America, make sure you go talk to those people that call themselves grand whatever that are in the Adab chamber to go get your copy of the Red Book. Right? So we're going to go to chapter 10 of the Red Book. And chapter 10 is called Meeting of the Seen Sages to Make Laws for the Coming Age for the Nations of the Earth. Now when the sages were refreshed, they opened up the book of life and read. They read the story of the life of man, of all his struggles, losses, and gains, and in the light of past events and deeds, they saw what would be best for him in coming years. They knew the kind of law and precepts suited to his estate. They saw the highest Allah ideal that the race could comprehend. Upon the 7 postulates, these sages were to formulate the law of life of the coming age that souls may rest. Now Mengsti was the oldest sage. He took the chair of chief and said, "Man is far enough advanced to live by faith. Man is not far enough advanced to live by faith. He cannot comprehend the things his eyes see not. He yet is child, and during all the coming age must be taught by pictures, symbols, rites, and forms. His God must be a human God. He cannot see Allah by faith, and he cannot rule himself. The king must rule, the man must serve. The age that follows this will be the age of man, the age of faith. In the blessed age, the human race will see without the aid of carnal eyes, will hear the soundless sound, will know the Spirit Allah. The age we enter is the preparation age, and all the schools must be designed in a simple way that men may comprehend. And man cannot originate. He builds by patterns that he can see. So in this council, we must carve out patterns for the coming age, and we must formulate the gnosis of the empire of the soul, which rests on 7. Each sage, in turn, shall form a postulate, and these shall be the basis of the creeds of men until the perfect age shall come. Then Mengski wrote the first. All things are thought. All life is thought activity. The multitudes of beings are but phases of the one great thought made manifest. Lo, Allah is thought, and thought is Allah. Then Vidyapati wrote the second postulate. Eternal thought is one. In essence it is two, intelligence and force. And when they breathe, a child is born. This child is love. And thus the triune Allah stands forth, whom men call Father, Mother, Son. Not Father, Mother, Holy Ghost. Father, Mother, Son. The triune Allah is one, but like one of light, in essence, He is 7. And when the triune Allah breathes forth, 10 seen spirits stand before His face. These are creative attributes. Men call them lesser gods, and in their image they made man. And Casper wrote the third. Man was a thought of Allah, formed in the image of the septenate, clothed in the substance of soul, and his desires were strong. He sought to manifest on every plane of life, and for himself he made a body of ethers of earthly forms, and so he descended to the plane of earth. In his descent, he lost his birthright, lost his harmony with Allah, made discordant all the notes of life. In harmony and evil are the same. So evil is the handwork of man. Ashbina wrote the fourth. Seeds do not germinate in light. They do not grow until they find the soil and hide themselves away from light. Man was evolved a seed of everlasting life, but in the ethers of the triune Allah, the light was far too great for seeds to grow. And so, man sought the soil of carnal life, and in the darkness of the earth, he found a place where he could germinate and grow. The seed has taken root and grown full well. The tree of life is rising from the soil of earthly things, and under natural law is reaching up to perfect form. There are no supernatural acts of Allah to lift a man from carnal life to spirit blessedness. He grows as grows the plant, and in due time is perfected. The quality of soul that makes it possible for man to rise to spirit life is purity. So it's a theme in the Silent Brotherhood of the East, or the Red Book, that man and Allah are one, and man must raise himself to be one with Allah. And if that's not done, then you pretty much lose everything, right? And just like the Circle 7, Holy Quran, we have the front page, which shows the Prophet Noble Juali, and then the page after him that shows the Sultan, right? And we're gonna address it again, that if Noble Juali in both the books was listed before the Sultan, that means he had more power than the Sultan, or the Sultan will be put first. And if the Sultan had a problem with this, considering that Noble Juali went to the east, then the Sultan would have told him he can't do that. He has to put the Sultans first if the Sultan had some type of authority, right? So the Sultan was subordinate to the Prophet. All right. So again, this is the Red Book. If you're a Moorish Science Temple of America member, you need to go talk to the heads of your temple and go get this book, because this is the second half of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and you need to have this in your possession in order for you to know the truth and the divine truth that Noble Drew Ali talks about. Right? I just wanted to put something out there quick. Maya Angelou, The Heart of a Woman. Right? Everybody knows Maya Angelou. Right? Oprah's book club. A flowering and growing sun. A powerful personal narrative. Right? So we're going to go to page 161. I told about Black American organizations. Remembering the Daughter Elks and Eastern Stars, Daughters of Isis and the Pythians, secret female organizations with strict moral codes. All the women in my family were or had been members. My mother and grandmothers had been daughter rulers and high potentates. Oaths were taken and lifelong promises made to uphold the tenets and stand by each sister even unto death. This is Maya Angelou. So what you're going to do is you're going to go research Daughter Elks. You're going to research Eastern Stars. You're going to research Daughters of Isis. You're going to research Pythians. Pythians. You're also going to research daughter rulers and high potentates. Now the reason why we're bringing this up is because majority of people have this idea that all these black leaders don't know what's going on. The majority of people have this idea that the black leaders that they choose to follow aren't part of their demise. Right? We've spoke about King Alfred Plan. Right? The military document, the executive order authorized October 1969 to counteract the minority, blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites in their rise from up under the depression and powers that be, the government. King Alfred Plan. All right? We spoke about the black leaders knowing. So we'll consider Maya Angelou a black leader. Right? Black leaders have taken the position of thinking that when they go and be part of these secret organizations, like Maya Angelou calls them, right? Secret organizations, whether they're male or female, right? They think that they're getting somewhere, when really they're losing out, because as Negro, black, color people, when you go join those organizations, you're at the bottom of the totem pole and everybody's standing on your shoulders, because the foundation of these secret organizations is that they're using your culture. The foundation of these secret organizations is that you don't know that they're actually stealing your birthright. You think that they're parading around because, you know, everybody assumes that this symbol belongs to them, when you've never ever heard them say that this is their symbol. The only people you hear say that this is their symbol is people who are trying to divert your attention away from your own stuff. Because It's been broken down by the elder Moors that when you take this so-called Illuminati symbol and you invoke the universal law or the natural law, like the Red Book was talking about, there's a law called the law of correspondence. And the law of correspondence says, as above, so below. So if we take this symbol right here and we engrave this symbol in our mind, right? And then we do this to it, now you have the Star of David, two triangles forming one symbol. The other thing that happens here is that if you look at the shadow of the pyramid, the shadow makes a 7. And then the 7's inside of a circle. And then right here, you can see there's one of the gates. And then you see there's another gate over here. Then you see there's another gate over here, right? And then when we look at the circle 7, we see that it's a 7 inside of a broken circle, right? So the circle 7 has been in our face. The circle 7 has been in our face. It's on the U.S. Federal Reserve note that everybody's held in their hand at one point in time, right? But the objective of all these agents is to divert your attention away from your own culture, while at the same time them using it, right? The objective is to divert your attention away from your own culture, while at the same time they're using it. So they would say that your culture is every single thing negative, but they're using it, right? For example, we're going to go to the Spanish Inquisition by Henry Camin, right? Using your own culture against you, okay? Page 161, page 162. There's a picture, right? Here's a picture of somebody that, you know, if you're just looking at the picture, you think that this guy right here is a pope, you know. But really and truly, this is how they would dress you up before they burn you at the stake during the Spanish Inquisition. They dress you up like a pope before they burn you at the stake during the Spanish Inquisition. Why? Because the headdress of the pope belongs to the Moors. And the Spanish Inquisition is the story of them murdering and torturing the Moors when Ferdinand and Isabella came together to take some claim on Moorish lands, right? This is that's what the Pope wears right there. All right, so it's documented fact, right? Now if you look at this picture, there's some more people down there getting dressed up to go get burned at the stake, right? And they have them wearing the fez before they go take them and put them into furnaces and burn them and torture them, right? But every single Masonic order wears the fez. So they use your culture They use your culture against you to go burn you at the stake during the Inquisition, and then after they get you out the way, they take your stuff, claim it as theirs, and then they rule the world with it. And now have us thinking that that's not our stuff, that that's somebody else's. Right? There's another good one there. For opening his mouth in dissent. Right? What do? When you open your mouth in dissent, right? They put a dunce cap on you and make you face the other direction during the Spanish Inquisition. Now, when we think about it, when we go back into, high school, Brother Tallahassee could vouch for this, right? It was mainly brothers and sisters that wore a dunce cap. We hardly ever see European wear dunce cap back in the day when you got in trouble. It was mainly brothers and sisters that wear dunce cap. Why? Because using our own culture against us. Using our own culture against us. Right? Because remember, if you cut off the peak of that dunce cap, you have a fez. Right? So it's been a repetitive theme of using the Moors' culture against them. Make sure you go check out Civil Alert Rising. Go check out Civil Alert Rising blog talk or their blog talk channel and listen to the classes on the history of the KKK. There's one with Alim Bey and there's one with Taj and Raz and Sister Anaid and Brother Abdullah. And they go in on the KKK and the origins of the KKK and all that. Right? Here's another one. Right? Spanish Inquisition. Put you in the dunce cap and then treat you like crap. While at the same time monitoring what they're doing, and then grafting themselves into your position of power. It's a repetitive theme. Go look at Django movie again. We broke it all down. Right? Just go on to YouTube, Canaanland Moors, Django. It's all about nationality. Showing how it was a transfer of power. Get us to hate our own stuff. We discard it, then they pick it up and rule with it. Right? That's how they got in power, and that's why they're in power right now. Because we abandoned our birthright. And we talked about that in the class. Go on to YouTube and check out Canaanland Moors Abandoning or Abandonment of Birthright class, where we broke down abandonment, and abandonment meaning you casting something away with no intention of going back to reclaim it. So that means anybody else could come pick it up, and once they pick it up and use it, now it's theirs. But if you get knowledge of what it is, you can go reclaim it back, which is why Noble Drew Ali came. To get us to reclaim back all these things that we think isn't ours. Right? Okay? So make sure you go. You could probably get this at the library or something. I don't know if it's in print anymore, but The Spanish Inquisition by Henry Camden. It's a good read. It's a good read on the Inquisition. Right? Also wanted to put this on the record. One of the Moors again, just doing their study. This is a Dogon priest. Dogon priest, high priest, Dogon of Mali. Right? Now we don't even have to say no more, because you already know. High Priest Dogon of Mali. Everybody knows what the culture is, except these weirdos in North America who want to call themselves Negro, black, colored people and abandon their birthright, and then get mad when nobody respects them, and get mad when people pull them over and give them tickets, and people, tax them to death, and people just, profile them by the minute. How much times you get stopped, get a ticket, drive 10 minutes and get stopped again, get another ticket? That doesn't happen to everybody. That only happens to the owners of the land, the owners of the North Gate, the owners of Maghrib Al-Aqsa, who don't know who they are. Repetitive theme, right? I was talking with a brother earlier to really consider, why is it that, if we came from Africa, when we commit crimes, that we don't get deported? Why don't they deport Negro, black, colored people if they're slaves that came here from Africa? Why they just throw them in a jail cell? Because you didn't come from Africa, you're in your own land. And you can't be deported to somewhere that you didn't come from, right? And that's evident in King Alfred plan. Just read that quick fast, just so we know that they know, and it's not a secret. There will be many cities where the minority will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. So they know that this is our land, right? But it comes back to the same thing, that if we don't study, like Noble Drew Ali told us to do, we get caught up in believing what they say and running with what they say, right? That's what Islam to brother Abdullah El Talib Mozi Bey, who did a good 2.5 hours on how messed up our perspective is with regard to, religion, secret orders, and that we have it so twisted. Our people have it so twisted. They don't even know. They don't even know all these things, which is ours, that we discard based on lack of ignorance of what those things really are, because we're listening to some European. And when they say what it is, they're saying what it is from their perspective, because they have it now. So logically, they're going to talk from their perspective. And if we let them tell it from their perspective, they'll claim everything, when we're the ones that are really supposed to be making the claims, right? A History of Turks in America by Professor Kamel Sikek, Cicek, and Professor Salim Koka, or Kosha, Koca. In the 16th century, the size and power of the Ottoman Empire reached its peak. Since the conquest of Istanbul by Sultan Mehmet the Conqueror in 1453, the Ottomans had engaged in active expansion, both in land and on sea. Seeking the legitimization and prestige associated with guarding the Islamic holy cities of Mecca and Medina, the Ottomans marched southward and eastward towards Arabia and Persia. But the conquest of Istanbul had opened the door to Europe, so the Ottomans also advanced westward toward the Balkans. With the establishment of its navy in the late 1400s, the Ottomans soon came in conflict with the seafaring Italian city-states. By the beginning of the 1500s, however, the Ottomans had emerged as the dominant power in the eastern Mediterranean. These successes in turn paved the way for Ottoman seamen to enter the Red Sea and Indian Ocean, thereby threatening the European trade routes to the east and bringing the Ottomans into conflict with the Portuguese. In the face of such expansion, European states endeavored to form alliances that would balance the power against the Ottomans. Remember Ferdinand and Isabella coming together to defeat the Moors. So again, pattern, right? The pattern. European states forming alliances to balance the power against the Ottomans. No different than when we talked about this before. Back in the day, you go to the club, go to the bar or whatever, see two Europeans bashing each other in the head with bottles, pool sticks or whatever. As soon as police come, they're brethren. Oh, this is my cousin, we're just drunk, don't worry about it, we'll handle it or whatever. And police is leaving because, right? Let that be two brothers. Both of us getting locked up. Both of us gonna do time in separate cells and all that type of stuff, right? You know, now we have records. Now we're going in this downward spiral when, you know, two Europeans do that and they're getting off scot-free. However, even the Pope's calls for holy war against the Turks in response to the conquest of Istanbul was not sufficient to overcome the individual political and economic interests of the European states and create a unified counterforce. Rather, European states struggled independently against the Ottomans, with the Habsburgs fighting the Ottomans in the Balkans and the Portuguese and Venetians fighting the Ottomans in the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. For the Europeans, the main concern was commercial, and this quest for alternate trade routes to India, as well as new trading partners, sparked the voyages of discovery that led to the Portuguese successfully discovering a way around the Cape of Good Hope and Christopher Columbus discovering America in 1492. Although Ottoman sultans took interest in the voyages of discovery and followed European developments, as an empire, there was no concerted attempt to colonize or develop trade with the Americas as was being done by the Europeans. At that time, the Ottomans were the wealthiest empire in the world, and an average Ottoman had little reason to leave family, friends, and prosperity to struggle in the Americas. Additionally, Ottoman trading and military activity focused mostly on northern Africa and Mediterranean and Middle East. However, this does not mean the Ottomans never reached America. Like any other European, it was possible to pay for passage to America, and some Ottomans visited America in this way. For example, Hanna al-Mawsuli, so Hanna al-Mawsuli, a Syriac priest, traveled to the Americas aboard an English ship and documented his travels from 1668 to 1683 in a journal that was eventually published in 1906, and records of North Carolina land patents and grants show that as early as 1635, some Turks were brought to the colonies as workers and laborers. Thus, the trade that developed between Americas and Europe, Europe and North Africa and the Middle East paved a link that on an individual scale permitted an intermingling of peoples. But not all Ottomans came to Americas willingly. Although some Ottoman seamen, soldiers, and local townsmen captured during sea battles or sieges were returned to the Ottomans or exchanged for European captives, oftentimes they were sold as galley slaves. Those who fell into slavery were used as labor on voyages to the Americas. Whether they returned to their native land in part depended on luck. For example, when Sir Francis Drake raided several of the Spanish holdings in America during 1585 to 1586, he liberated several hundred Turkish, Indian, and Negro prisoners and took them with him when he sailed north towards the English colony at Roanoke. It has been suggested that Drake took his assortment people with him to reinforce the colony, and he had promised the Turks he took with him freedom and repatriation to the Ottoman Empire. However, while at Roanoke, a furious storm sank several of his ships, and whether any of them were able to swim ashore is not known. But when Drake returned to England, he did bring with him about 100 Turks, and many of them did return to the Ottoman Empire. At this point, it should be noted that anyone who was a subject of the Ottoman Sultan was referred to as a Turk. Drake's Turks may have come from any part of the Ottoman Empire and been of any ethnicity, such as Turkish, Arabic, Berber, Slavic, or Greek. So you see how they graft themselves into the story, right? Saying that Turks include Slavic, which are Europeans, and Greeks, right? Regardless of how they arrived, traces of the descendants of Ottoman subjects who arrived in America during the 16th to 18th centuries can still be seen today. For example, the Turks of Sumter, the Turks of Sumter County, South Carolina, claim descent from Joseph Benenhali, whose free name is Yosef Ben Ali, an Arab from northern Africa, then part of the Ottoman Empire, who came to America circa 1780, and recent research done in the 1990s has brought to light indications that some of the ancestors of the Melungeons may have been Turkish. So you're also going to do your research on the Melungeons, and there's extensive information about the Melungeons. Melungeons, right? So now let's go to this early history in the Americas, right? And this is information compiled by Amir Muhammad. In Dr. Ben Fell's book, Saga America, he reports that the Southwest Pima people possess a vocabulary which contains words of Arabic origin. Dr. Fell also reports that in Inyo County, California, there exists an early rock carving which stated in Arabic, Yasas ben Maria, Jesus, son of Mary. Dr. Fell discovered the existence of Muslim schools in Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, and Indiana dating back to 700 to 800 CE. By 1312, Mansa Musa's brother, Sultan Abu Bakari II of Mali, made his second expedition on the Atlantic Ocean. In 1324, on his famous journey to Hajj, Mansa Musa reported in Cairo that his brother had left him in charge of Mali. Anthropologists have proven that the Mandinkas under Abu Bakari explored many parts of North America via the Mississippi and other river systems. At Four Corners, Arizona, writings show that they even brought elephants from Africa to the area, right? So these Moors from Mali, because don't forget, right? That's why we showed the Mali high priest, the Dogon priest with his fez on. So we know that the Malians were Moors, right? So the Malian Moors, it's said, according to this work compiled by Amir Muhammad, that Arizona writings show that these Malians even brought elephants from Africa to America, right? So what type of sophisticated high science, high technology did these Moors have that they brought elephants from America, from Mali to America? Right? Just something to think about. In 1492, this is probably common knowledge, Columbus had two captains of Muslim origin. During his first voyage, one named Martin Alfonso Pinzon, the captain of the Pinta, and his brother Vicente Yanez Pinzon, the captain of the Nina. They were wealthy, expert ship outfitters who helped organize Columbus's expedition and repaired the flagship Santa Maria. The Pinzon family, or Pizon family, was related to Abuzian Muhammad III, the Moroccan Sultan of the Marinid dynasty. So the Sultan's name, Abuzayyan, Muhammad III. So the people who assisted, or the captains of Muslim origin that were on Columbus's ship, were relatives of one of the Moroccan sultans, right? On top of that, in the Spanish Inquisition by Henry Camden, he talks about Ferdinand and Isabella telling Christopher Columbus, and I quote, "Go to the Spanish dungeons and get the Moors to be your crew on your ships." Right? So everybody knows. October 21st, 1492, Columbus admitted in his papers that while his ship was sailing near Jibara on the northeast coast of Cuba, he saw a mosque on top of a beautiful mountain. Ruins of mosque and minarets with inscriptions of Quranic verses have been discovered in Cuba, Mexico, Texas, and Nevada. And remember, Moors are Muslims. Muslims are Moors. Muslims are Moors. Saracens are Moors. And if we go to a writing called Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America by Noble Juali, he makes a statement that the Moors as Mohammedans are early Muslims. The Moors as Mohammedans added to the beauty and grandeur of Spain. For centuries, art, science, literature, and chivalry flourished among them. While the rest of Europe was sunk in the gloom of the Dark Ages, the Moors were the most ingenious and industrious of the subjects of Spain. Their expulsion from Spain in 1492 was one of the chief causes of decadence of that country, for both agriculture and industry fell into decay after their departure. So the Moors are these Muslims that they say had mosques on mountains and all that, right? In 1527, the Spanish explorer Panfilo de Narvaez left Spain for the Americas. In his fleet, he had 5 ships and 600 people in his company. The expedition met with many hardships. Several ships were destroyed by the West Indies hurricanes, and a group of Indians killed a large number of remaining members of the party. Afterward, when only a few members of the expedition were left, Cabeza de Vaca, the former treasurer of Narvaez, took up the leadership of the remaining members of the party, with Estevanico being among them. Estevanico was called an Arab Negro, a Muslim who came from Azamor on the Atlantic coast of Morocco. So he was in actuality a Moor, even though they're going to lie and say he was an Arab Negro, because when you do your research, we talked about this before, Arab, African, and Moor were synonymous terms during the 1500s, 1400s, etc. Right? He was among the first 2 persons to reach the west coast of Mexico in an exploring overland expedition from Florida to the Pacific coast. It's reported that Estevanico acted as a guide and took them 9 years to reach Mexico City, where they told stories of their travels. In the 1550s, Nasser-ad-Din, the Egyptian, settled near the Hudson River in the Catskills region of upstate New York. He was called Prince Nasser-ad-Din. He fell in love with a Native American, which is a Moor again, right, named Latwana, right, who married someone else of her choice and tribe. The report has it that he poisoned Latwana on her wedding night by giving a gift with a poisoned snake in it. The warriors of the Mohawk tribe captured him and burned Nasser-ad-Din at the stake. In Puerto Rico, found in the 1500 era, Fort of the Moors Arabic writings are found on one of the walls of the fort. Even in downtown Old San Juan, we found a restaurant storefront decorated in Arabic tiles, centuries old. In 1586, the English pirate Sir Francis Drake proceeded to raid his Spanish and Portuguese enemies on the coast of Brazil. During the raid, Drake liberated or captured 400 Portuguese and Spanish-held prisoners, including an estimated 300 Moorish and Turkish galley slaves who were captured in Mediterranean sea battles, as well as several dozen South American Indians, a smaller group of West African Muslims, and a few Portuguese soldiers. Drake had planned to arm and release the Turks and Africans on Cuba. So right here we could see the synonymous nature of African, Moorish, Turkish, Muslim, right? Because it's a repetitive theme throughout the history of our people in the Americas and ultimately the world. The 1600s. In the 1600s, the Indians told Jamestown residents that with only a 6-day walk to the west, there were people like you who wore their hair short and built long houses. In 1638, Anthony Jansoon Van Sally was an original settler of and prominent wealthy landowner, merchant, and creditor in New Netherlands colony. Anthony was Jan Jansoon's fourth child, born in 1607 in Cartagena, Spain, from his second wife. In 1624, Anthony was in Sal with his father, and by the 1630s had emigrated to New Netherlands, purchasing a farm on the island of Manhattan in 1638 and becoming one of the original settlers. Following numerous legal disputes, including with the church, he was a Muslim, Anthony was ordered to leave New Netherlands. But on appeal to the Dutch West India Company, so that's how West Indies came in, because that was a corporation. Just like India was a corporation. Just like Hudson's Bay was a corporation that we have downtown right now, that's a store, right? So it's even telling you, in like when you read a lot of these 1500s, 1600s literature, when they talk about colonies, you know, these colonies being created, these were the early establishments of corporations that people assumed are the land because they listened to the European tell the story, like we were talking about earlier, right? And if you let them tell it, they're going to claim everything and leave you out of it, right? This is why Noble Drew Ali said, study, 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 because when you study, you'll be able to pick up the truth within all these pages and pages that they put out there in order to get us diverted. Because you already know, if you want to hide anything from a nigger, put it in a book, because niggers don't read, right? Anthony's appearance and race was always the subject of much debate. He was of a mixed ethnic background, and he was incredibly tall with superior strength. Other descriptions of him was that he was a former black slave who was mulatto. Others said he was half Moroccan, Turk, or a Berber. Anthony was considered European enough to be credited in 1862 for building the first European settlement in New Utrecht, Utrecht. He had 4 daughters who married into respectable colonial New Amsterdam families of European origin. So they already said that he's half Moroccan, Turk, or a Berber, and then they're going to say now that it's European. Them, if you let them tell it, they're going to jack everything that you have and leave you out of it. Make you look like the dunce with the cap on when they're really the dunce with the cap on that switch places with you. Remember, back in the day, remember the Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy Trading Places movie. Go back, watch that movie again, so we can be clear that they've always known and they've always telling us that this is what they're doing, right? So remember, Eddie Murphy was the bum, that they brought him in, made Dan Aykroyd the bum, right? So that they can have their little bet on the Masonic level, while the minority, the black and the poor white, right? While the black and the poor white fight it out with each other, right? But in the movie, we already know how it went. They teamed up and they kicked those Masons' asses, right? Anthony's father, Jan Janzoen van Haarlem, was the first president and grand admiral of the Corsair Republic of Sale, Sale, S-A-L-E, from 1619 to 1627. He was once a Dutch pirate who was considered one of the most notorious of the Barbary pirates from the 17th century. Jan Janzoen van Haarlem was born in Haarlem, North Holland, Netherlands, in 1575. Little is known of his early life except that he married young and had a child, Lisbeth Janzoen van Haarlem. His surname was toponymic, indicating his family was from upper class. Janzoen was captured in 1618 at Lanzarote, one of the Canary Islands, by Barbary corsairs and taken to Algiers as a captive. There he turned Turk or Muslim after Janzoen's conversion to Islam and the ways of his captors. He sailed with the famous corsair Suleiman Reyes, also known as Sleeman Reyes, originally a Dutchman named De Veen Boer. So again, we're looking at 1618, right? And this North Holland Netherlandman being converted by his captors. Now, why is it that they're capturing this Netherlandman? And that's where we get into the whole story about paying tribute to the Moors. Because the Moors, when they ruled, they were kidnapping these Europeans off the seas, like they were just picking them off one by one, just picking them off. As soon as they get in the water, bam, pick them off. And now Europeans have to go call and pay tribute, gold, silver, all this stuff to get these Europeans back that got, taken over. But remember, them converting to Islam is really them stealing the birthright. because they didn't convert back to Christianity or Catholicism or whatever religion that they had before they got kidnapped. When they got released, they took all the studies that they got from the Moors because remember, there was no, when they talk about slavery in America, and you have a slave, you hang him on a tree and you kill them and all that stuff. There was none of that going on with us when we were kidnapping Europeans. We were just taking the women, put them in the harem, take the men, and use them as property, right? So you have the situation now where the women now who were in the harems, their children became the daughters of the American Revolution, who gave birth to the sons who became the Aryan Brotherhood, KKK, and all these people who for based on the science that they learned being up in the harem, the science of the number 9, the science of the womb and all that, they were able to breed sons that came out of the womb with the hatred for the Moors, that it was nothing for them to do the things that they did in so-called slavery, right? Go do the research on the Trail of Tears, do the research on just what these individuals did during the subjugation of the Moors in America. Let's not call it slavery. Let's call it the subjugation of the Moors, right? Because when they found out that there was Moors over here too, and they didn't defeat the Moors when they kicked them out of Spain, and they came over here and they realized that there was Moors here too, way more Moors than they had over in Spain. That's when they realized that now we know what's going on. Now we know what's up, right? That's when the assault went 5 times harder than the assault that was going on in Spain, right? 1639. The first black recorded by the name on the Delmar Via Peninsula was called Anthony. He was delivered near present-day Wilmington. He was often described as an Angler or Moor and called Blackamoor, from the Delaware's Forgotten Folk, The Story of the Moors and Nanticotes by C.A. Westlager. So C.A. Westlager, Westlager. And the name of the book is The Story of the Moors and Nanticote. 1670. Virginia General Assembly, 1670 Act, declared who will be slaves, excluding Turks and Moors, whose countries were in amity with the King of England. And that's page 491 of the Virginia General Assembly. In 1684, Moors are reported to have arrived in Delaware near Dover, and in southern New Jersey near Bridgeton. The descendants of many of the Muslim visitors of North America are members in many of our present-day Indian tribes. Some of the tribes are the Alibamu tribe of Alabama, the Apaches, Anasazi, Arawak, Arikana, the Black Indians of Schuylkill River, Schuyllkill River in New York, the Cherokees, the Creeks, the Macas, the Mohegans, the Mohannets, the Nanticotes, the Seminoles, the Zulus, and the Zuni. Zulus. Remember that one for North American Indians, named the Zulus. Many other Muslims and their descendants came to America's shores after being marooned, such as the Moors of Delaware near Dover and southwest New Jersey near Bridgeton and parts of southern Maryland, the Melungeons of Tennessee and Virginia, the Guineas of West Virginia, the Clappers of New York, the Turks of South Carolina, the Laster tribe near Hertford, North Carolina. It is reported that the Laster tribe was descendants from a Moorish captain who married a European woman and settled in the area. They are known to be a mixed tribe who has a tradition and heritage of a Moorish sea captain. According to William Harrens in Surviving Indian Groups of the Eastern United States Annual Report, Smithsonian Institution, other known groups were the Arabs of Summit, the Mecca Indians, the Hassan Amisco Nipmuc of Massachusetts, the Brass Ankles of South Carolina, the Seminoles of Florida. History shows that some of the descendants of the early Muslims married and lived among Native American Indians. The early Moors were inhabitants of Dover, Delaware, southern New Jersey, North Carolina, Maryland, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia. Arab clappers lived in upstate New York. North Carolina, Ben Ishmael tribe lived in Kentucky. In the book Pirate Utopias, Moorish Corsairs and European Renegados by Peter Lamborn Wilson. And don't forget, Peter Lamborn Wilson is the founder of the Moorish Orthodox Church. And this is the European whose free national name is Hakim Bey, because he studied under the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, or he studied the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and implemented many things that the Moors were supposed to do that they didn't do. Peter Lamborn Wilson. He cites that in 1627, Muslim pirates from Morocco in the Barbary Coast attacked Baltimore, Ireland, and held it for 68 days. At that time, the southern and western parts of Ireland were infested with pirates just as the Barbary Coast. A poem was also written about it called The Sack of Baltimore. There was also a famous woman pirate named Grace O'Malley, who ruled her own little kingdom in Mayo. In B. Quinn's book, he points out that pre-Celtic tribes of Munster were called Hiberni, Hiberni. They were assumed to be a branch of Iberi from Spain. Other cities with possible Islamic and African root names are Alacaquet, Alacanuk, and Solomon, Alaska, Alichuck, Ali Molina, Ali Oidak, Arizona, Cushman, Arkansas, Alameda and Malcolm X Square, California, Abeta and Medina Plaza, Colorado, Liberia, Connecticut, Medulla and Sally Heights, Florida, Tallulah Falls and Zeddy, Georgia, Alimanu and Miali, Hawaii, Samaria and Syria, Indiana, Cairo Junction, Egypt Shores, Egyptian Hills, Egyptian Acres, Hagerstown, Media, Medina, and Shabona, Illinois, Mingo, Ali, Palestine Historical, Sabula, Salem, Tama, Maki, and Malak, Iowa, Assyria, Kansas, Gamaliel, Kentucky, Tula, Louisiana, Egypt Beach, Massachusetts, Almira, Hagar Township, Zilwaukee, Michigan, Ameret, Amor, Isanti, Mesaba, Kanaranzi, Kwamba, and Suomi, Minnesota, Egypt Hill, and Itabina, Mississippi, Madrid, Nebraska, Alhambra, New Mexico, Hague, Nunda, Salem, Salamac, Unadilla, New York, Amina, North Dakota, Damascus Heights, Jordan Creek, Jordan Valley, and South Lebanon, Oregon. Egypt Corners, Egypt Mills, Jordan Valley, Pennsylvania. Jordan Village, Utah. Cairo Bend, Isham, Palestine. Zuzu, Texas. Ahmedabad, Egypt Bend Estates. Jordan Springs, Virginia. Yarrow Point, Shua, Elahi, Baghdad Junction, Washington. Medina Junction, Mecca, Wisconsin. Holy Islamville, South Carolina. And all this is just to show that we've been in these lands. And we were in these lands as Muslims, Mohammedans, Turks, all that, right? On top of that, majority of the names were names that are supposedly from the continent, right? When in actuality, this side is the continent and over there is actually Asia, right? South Asia, right? So now we got 1700s. 1700s. Kunta Kinte was captured and enslaved. Kunta Kinte was a Muslim, born in 1750 in the village of Jufuri in Gambia. He was shipped to Annapolis, Maryland on the ship Lord Ligonier and sold to a Virginia planter. Kunta Kinte fought hard to hold on to his Islamic heritage. Having learned the Quran as a boy, Kunta scratched Arabic phrases in the dirt and tried to pray every day after he arrived in America. Kunta Kinte was Alex Haley's Mandingo forebearer, who he talks about in his book Roots. In 1768, a Muslim named Charno, living in South Carolina, wrote 4 surahs from the Quran. He was the slave of Captain David Anderson. There are at least 9 different people reported to have written Arabic texts during this period. In 1769, Savannah, Georgia, Gazette advertises for 3 runaway Muslim women from Guinea by the names of Jabina, Belinda, and Hagar. From 1769 to 1790s, more than a dozen Muslim names appear in runaway slave advertisement ads like Jamina, Hagar, Muhammad, Armour, Osman, 4 Sambos, Kwame, Ishmael, Mingo, and Mustafa, and others who were described as of the Moorish breed or from a Moorish country. In 1770, the Wahab brothers were shipwrecked on the coast of North Carolina. Once there, they settled, married, and started a farm. Their descendants had owned one of the largest private hotel chains in Ocracoke Island off the North Carolina coast. In the late 1770s, Salim the Algerian, who was a Muslim from a royal family of Algiers, he was captured by Spanish men of war and later sold into slavery to the French in New Orleans. He eventually got his freedom after running away from slavery. He lived a while among the Native American tribes and settled in Virginia. Salim eventually met Thomas Jefferson, attended the First Continental Congress, and died an insane man after giving up his family and religion for America. From 1774 to 1775, many runaway slave advertisements were of Muslim runaway slaves, like the one in Savannah, Georgia Gazette, 1774, for a runaway Negro fellow named Mahomet. On June 17, 1775, Peter Salim, born 1750, a former slave who fought in the Battle of Bunker Hill. The battle was fought at Breed's Hill. According to one story, the colonial troops were near defeat. the British Major John Pitcairn ordered them to surrender. Salim then stepped forward and shot Pitcairn. Pitcairn later died of the wound. Peter Salim got awarded for fighting in the Revolutionary War, and he also fought at Lexington. Peter Salim was honored for his bravery. In the winter of 1741, New York City, 3 Moorish crew members of a captured Spanish ship were sold into bondage and protested their conditions, swearing revenge. After several fires flared across town during March and April of 1742, hysterical residents feared that a slave revolt was imminent and suspected that the Spanish Negro Moors were deeply concerned and active in the protests. The episode ended with the public executions of 23 people and the exile of 71 others from Seaport, New York's History magazine. March 3rd, 1753. Muslims from North Africa appear in the records of South Carolina. In South Carolina Council Journal, number 21, part 1, page 298 and 299, 2 men by the name Abel Condor and Mohammed petitioned the South Carolina royal authorities in Arabic for their freedom. They came from Asila on the Barbary coast of Morocco. Their story is that they were in a battle in 1736 with the Portuguese when they lost the battle and were captured. An officer named Captain Henry Dabrib asked them would they be willing to serve him for 5 years in Carolina. When they arrived in South Carolina, they were transferred to Daniel LaRoche, who then enslaved them for 15 years until 1753. Repetitive theme. Moors being captured, and then Moors being captured in these battles with the European and then sold into slavery. Over here, you're going to research a book called 93 Muslim Slaves, Abducted Moors, African Jews, Misnamed Turks by James Haggy, H-A-G-Y. So 93 Muslim Slaves, Abducted Moors, African Jews, Misnamed Turks by James Haggy, H-A-G-Y. Right, and again, the timeline is crazy because you're going from the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. Right? Now, one thing I wanted to touch on that I found that was very interesting that the Moors might want to do some research on right here. In 1930, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. In 1930, the Adenu Allah Universal Arab Association, ADDEYNU, Allah Universal Arab Association, a Sunni community, was established in Newark, New Jersey. Under the leadership of Professor Ezeldeen, Ezeldeen, who was second in command in Noble Jualis movement and was known as Brother Lomax Bey. As one of the first African Americans to master the Arabic language and go abroad to study Islam in Egypt, when Professor Ezeldeen returned to the States, he rejected the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple and developed Orthodox Islam. communities in several cities throughout the United States. A community was developed in upstate New York and in southern part of New Jersey outside of Camden in a community called Ezeldine Village. Professor Ezeldine was responsible for establishing the first national Islamic association among the Sunni Muslims called United Islamic Communities, which included Sheikh Dawood, members of the First Mosque of Cleveland and Pittsburgh, along with others. So, with that one, you already know, just from when Professor Ezeldine returned to the States, he rejected the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple. Right? He rejected the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple. Now, let's get into some up-to-date news. This was an interesting one that has been floating around. The lead investigator in Sheriff Joe Apiro's review of the authenticity of Barack Obama's birth certificate unloaded a bombshell about the case, that he was told by sources members of the media were threatened with federal investigations should they continue to report on the birth certificate issue. Lead investigator Mike Zullo told WND that as he was preparing information to be presented to the public, it was clear that the mainstream media was not going to be in attendance at the sheriff's scheduled news conference, where he presented facts suggesting both fraud and forgery in the image of a Hawaiian birth certificate that the White House released last year's proof positive of Obama's eligibility for office. During our investigation, we actually were told that media had been threatened with investigations, commentators threatened with their jobs. The threats were so intimidating that some individuals quit their positions after safety concerns for their families, he said. So the problem became to get the information to the American public in spite of an intentional media blackout, since citizens still must make critical leadership decisions about their government through the election process. So Obama's mad that these guys are pushing the issue of this birth certificate idea. Now, why is he mad? Because as we already showed, right, he knows about the Moroccan Empire. It's not a secret that this is the Moroccan Empire. It's not a secret that there was a prophet by the name of Noble Juali that told the United States back then, if you guys are going to be just, you're going to have an Asiatic president and a European vice president, right? So why is it that Obama is stressing this fact about, the birth certificate issue and threatening people and all this stuff, right? Because he knows that the birth certificate is void ab initio. And what we're going to read is a public notice to all public service governors from April 13th, 2011, to Honorable President Barack Obama, right? Just to show that he knows what's up, right? We don't care if he replied to this letter, but we know that Barack knows what's up, right? And he has a right to tell them, to hell with you and your stupid questions and whatever, and investigate them, right, for harassing him about a void ab initio piece of paper which identifies him as a it, when he already came out and said, don't call me black and all that. I'm not a black president, right? Because he knows about nationality and he's been schooled. So the letter reads as follows. Greetings from the Moorish nation. As you are aware, the Moors of Northwest Amexem are aboriginal indigenous to this land as affirmed in the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787 to 1836, recorded in the Congressional Records of the United States of America and its many enclaves. As such, the United States of America and all enclaves, agents, agencies, registered corporations, contractors, et al. Are all obligated to United States Republic Constitution, Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787 to 1836, and all contracts and agreements and engagements entered into before the adoption of the United States Republic Constitution, as affirmed in Article 6. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound hereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding, the senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures, and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. But no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States. These compacts, treaties, all affirm the following. As Moorish American nationals, jus sanguinis, we are protected under international law. The United States Republic Constitution, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship 1787 to 1836, and the Zodiac Constitution. Jus sanguinis, citizenship is not determined by place of birth, but by having a parent who are citizens of the nation. Jus sanguinis rights are mandated by international treaty, with citizenship definitions imposed by the international community. The treaty in no way gave any land as the land and the resources is and are the inheritance of the people and is and are unalienable and inalienable. Black's Law 4th edition dictionary. Unalienable, inalienable, incapable of being alienated, that is, sold and transferred. Inalienable, not subject to alienation, the characteristic of those things which cannot be bought or sold or transferred from one person to another, such as rivers and public highways and certain personal rights, example, liberty. It can never be sold by one or all. It cannot be contracted, and it cannot be transferred. It cannot be obtained by intermarriage or by interbreeding. In accordance and in harmony with Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141 and 143, Consular Courts Act, October 1st, 1956, repealed Sections 141 to 143 effective upon the date which the President determined to be appropriate for the relinquishment of jurisdiction of the United States in Morocco. Jurisdiction of the United States in Morocco was relinquished by Memorandum of President Eisenhower dated September 15, 1956, and the Sundry Free Moors Act of 1789 to 1790. Act 1 of the Bill of Rights. Congress shall make no law to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Article 13, Section 12 of the Bill of Rights. The traffic in slaves with Africa is hereby forever prohibited on pain of death, and the forfeiture of all rights and property of persons engaged therein, and the descendants of Africans shall not be citizens. Declaration of Independence. Preamble. All men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and property. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, to affect their safety and happiness. As the Moors of Northwest Amexem, North America, Northgate, are not under / a part of the foreign United States America private foreign corporation created on paper as distinguished from land and its enclaves as affirmed in the United States Republic Constitution Preamble, as well as Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, we Moorish American nationals are not, cannot be held to any codes, ordinances, executive orders, statutes, etc. by the foreign United States of America and its enclaves, which is foreign to all Moorish American nationals and foreign to the United States Republic Constitution, to which we Moors of America give honor and respect. We, the people of the continental United States, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square. The United States Republic Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. In fact of law, no people, Moorish American nationals or otherwise, are under any regulations of any government, as the sole obligation of government is to preserve, protect, and secure the rights of the people. When these established supreme principles and fundamental laws of the land are violated, it is the right of the people to enforce the United States Republic Constitution, of which all public servants must take an oath to uphold prior to taking a seat, and if necessary, reprimand or remove these public servants who are instead warring against the people. To this end, we Moors of Northwest Amexem submit this public notice to notify all governors, to communicate with all your subordinates the following. In accordance and harmony with the United Nations Rights of Indigenous People, General Assembly Resolution 61/295 on the 13th of September 2007, Article 6, every individual has the right to a nationality. Article 19, states shall consult and cooperate in good faith with indigenous peoples concerning through their own representative institutions in order to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing legislative or administrative measures that may affect them. Article 20. Indigenous peoples deprived of their means of subsistence and development are entitled to just and fair redress. Article 37. Indigenous peoples have the right to the recognition, observance, and enforcement of treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements concluded with states or their successors, and to have the states honor and respect such treaties, agreements, and other constructive arrangements. Identity. In the law of evidence, sameness, the fact that a subject, person, or thing before a court is the same as it is represented, claimed, or charged to be. To recognize or establish as being a particular person or thing, to attest or prove to be as purported or asserted, etc. American, noun, of or pertaining to the continents and contiguous seas and islands of America, a native or aboriginal of America, originally applied to the aboriginals or copper-colored people of the land, Western Hemisphere, found by European invaders or peregrines, in brackets pilgrims. If any of the people who identify themselves as Moorish American nationals are approached, confronted, kidnapped, held hostage, and any liberties impaired as disclosed by the Moorish American national, the following charges will be placed on the individual as well as the corporate entity representing the individual. $250,000 payable in lawful money per the Coinage Act of April 2nd, 1792, per violation of liberty per day until cured. These charges are in accordance with Title 18, Section 241 and 242. These charges will be credited to you/your bond within 24 hours of notification of the incident. We reserve the right to negotiate for equitable compensation to be determined by the injured party. Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to agent. Sincerely and without malice, I declare under the Zodiac Constitution and the United States Republic Constitution that the above is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and honorable intent. 13th day of April, 1431, 2011, Anaid A.L., Minister Plenipotentiary. CC, United Nations High Commissioner, Palace Wilson, International Justice Court, The Hague, the Netherlands, the Honorable Barack Obama, White House, Washington, United States Justice Department, United States Attorney General Eric Holder, U.S. Department of Transportation, Secretary Ray LaHood, International Criminal Court, Luis Moreno Ocampo, The Hague, Netherlands, Great Seal Association of Moorish Affairs, Minister AEL, Interpol, Lyon, France, United States Department of State, Hillary Rodham Clinton. So this was sent to Barack Obama April 13th, 2011. And we think that they don't know what's going on. June 19th, 2009. Beloved President Obama and First Lady, my name is Elihu Nathaniel Pleasant Bay. I am the last living Canaanland adept prepared by those who actually had their hands in the hands of Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Very little truth is known about this seventh angel born in the state of North Carolina, January 8, 1886, but it takes one in power to tell his illustrious story. The 2 copies of my book I have enclosed to you mark the first complete biography of El-Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, Noble Drew Ali, ever to be written in defense of his life's works and teachings. The book is an educational necessity to welcome the so-called Negro, Blacks, Colored, and African American peoples to their one free national name. These denationalized labels were placed upon the free West African nationals during the time of slavery in the Western Hemisphere. Such names have no decent nature and alludes to property, strawmen, and commerce. I have envisioned writing this missive to you since the historical day of your inauguration. However, like you, as an angel of the great God, I can too only deliver messages to the nations of the earth, but only upon his command. Albeit your presidency, combined with Vice President Biden, had been prophesied nearly a century ago, 1923, by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. This letter may appear extensive, but only because you are the foremost world leader and the necessity of our meeting face to face may be minimized to external communications. Go forward a little. This letter also carries our gratitude for her firm humbleness. As the Grand National Chairman, I have further enclosed Divine Minister Ordination documents. 2. Proclamation, declaration of status and jurisdiction of the Moorish Americans, mission statements. 2 books, Noble Drew Ali, The Exhuming of a Nation. 4 nationality identification cards. 2 silver medallions. Our Moorish flags. These gifts for the Obama tribe are from the aboriginal treasures of the soon-to-be recognized Moorish American peoples who inhabited Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, from the western shores of Africa to the present-day Americas. Your ensigns are not from the Moorish Science Organization, religious sect, fraternal organization, or Moorish Indian Republic. There are no oaths for you to take in order to be free. When one is honest, then oaths are unnecessary. Therefore, there is nothing binding except the legacy of peace on earth handed down to us, the gods, by our honorable forefathers. The Moorish have been instructed to take these lessons and straighten out our brothers in the East. We have the pure heart and mind needed to help you, Mr. President. The current state of the office you have inherited was prophesied by Noble Drew Ali in the 1920s. One day every nation will turn against the United States, and the only way they will be able to do business will be with the help of the Moors. This is to say, your presidency is not accidental, but a cosmic answer to the cries from the citizens of the earth and international necessity. Since the era of Abraham Lincoln, there has not been a president with the virtues to immaculate the nation buried under the assumable jurisdictions of the 14th and 15th Amendment. Only through the allegiances of our governments can this nation be exhumed and the blemish be removed from the face of liberty and justice for all. Then the United States will become the most honored true power, and every nation on earth will stand in her defense. So they've been told, they've been put on notice, and they know the truth about the Moors here. They know that we are here, and it's imperative that if you are so-called Negro, black, colored, etc., if you are so-called Negro, black, colored, etc., right, like that, right, that right there is the Moorish flag, right? That's the Moorish flag. The same flag that the Moors have, that they say Noble Drew Ali brought, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star. There's Barack Obama, and there's his wife, First Lady, right, repping the flag. So if you think that they don't know, you need to go give your head a shake and then come back and watch this again later and recognize that that right there is a Moroccan flag flying in the Americas, and Barack is standing next to it, and he's Muslim. So all that stuff that we were reading about Muslims in America and Turks and Berbers and all that, they know what's up. And they're expecting you to know what's up because you are the ancient foremothers and forefathers that have returned. Right? They know what's going on. It's not a secret anymore. Noble Drew Ali said that he took all of the secrets away, and there's no more secrets. Everything's out. Noble Drew Ali said he's going to make the European tell the truth. Right? Many of these Europeans have been telling us the truth about our nationality and birthrights, and we still don't want it. Right? We still don't want it. Okay, just remember, right? Just remember, the executive order was authorized in 1969. So since 1969, they've been preparing to eliminate blacks, Indians, Latinos, Puerto Ricans, and poor whites. Since 1969, they've been planning this. because they realize that these minorities don't want to take their place amongst the affairs of men. They want to keep playing the game that they're victims of slavery, and because we're victims of slavery, we need all these handouts from the European who's our enemy. And you know that's your enemy, but you send your children to their school. You know that's your enemy, but you take handouts from them. You know that's your enemy, but you continue to play around with them. Well, they're not playing, because Zero Committee report states that production could not dispose of the containers' bodies, which proved a bottleneck when so-called Jews were being exterminated by Hitler. So because production could not dispose of the containers' bodies, which proved a bottleneck, which means that there was evidence left over that he was denationalizing. Because he was denationalizing, right? He was getting rid of the stateless people that didn't want to claim to be Germans, because they wanted to claim to be a religious creed, right? Which isn't even a religious creed, it's a degree of knowledge, right? We suggest that vaporization techniques be employed to overcome the production problems inherent in King Alfred. So they already know that they're going to be exterminating people. They already know that. Since 1969, they knew that, okay, you know what? We're going to have to exterminate these minorities, because we're moving from an industrial age to a technological age, and we don't have any purpose for these its anymore, right? We don't need them building up anything. We get a computer to do it. We get a robot to do it. So since they're going to use robots to build stuff up, people who serve no purpose are going to be exterminated. And vaporization techniques, right? Just so you see, it's not what I say, right? Vaporization techniques. Vaporization. Right? Since 1913, Noble Drew Ali said the only way that these people are going to be saved is through their connection to the Moorish Divine and National Movement. But nobody listened to him. They wanted to start Islamic groups. They wanted to go get teachings from, pale Arabs, and then come back here, talk about their Sunni Muslims, and abandon the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple and have you chase after them. When Noble Drew Ali told you that you're Moors, in order to get yourself out of this, that's going to happen. And this is their plan, right? Just go ask Alex Jones. Go on Alex Jones' website and make him show you all the FEMA coffins that they have. Make him show you all the FEMA concentration camps that they have. Because if you don't, we're doing what we do. We have a temple out here in Canaanland that you could come proclaim your nationality. So we're doing our part as Moors. If you don't want to come because you think you're joining some group or something like that, and you don't want to digest that you are making a claim to get your birthright back, then you're going to be up in those vaporization chambers. Guaranteed. Right? Okay? You want to play the black game, the black power game? This is what's happening when you play the black power game. When you play the black-white power game, this is what's happening. This is what's going on when you play the black-white power game. Because don't forget, whites are on the list too, under minority. Because white isn't a status, white is a stateless person, just like black is a stateless person. So white power and black power are eating each other at the ankles, right? and they're exterminating themselves. So you don't want to play that game, because, right, this is what it is. When you play the black-white game, you don't want to be here. It's not in your best interest to make this claim, right? On top of that, these guys, right? These guys, right? These guys are using your Circle 7. And they're claiming your power. The white people are really the Moors. And this is the mundane cross, which is the Circle 7. Right? They're taking your symbol and terrorizing you with your own symbol. And terrorizing you with your own pride. Because you want to be black. Because you think that black and white are identities. They're not identities. They're statuses. So either you're going to claim your stuff back, because this is really ours. This is not some European skinheads science. This is our science. This is the Circle 7 that you're looking at right here. This is the Circle 7. If you don't claim it, trust me, they're going to take it and they're going to bury you with your own stuff. So you better start claiming your stuff back. Because two more things before we close out. Right? Because we're talking about this one. And people are laughing that they're making fun of Moors by putting Peter Griffin, right, in a Moorish vest and a fez, right? You got Peter Griffin dressed up like a Moor, but he's converting to Islam. And people are going to say that they're making fun of Moors when they're letting you know that everybody's Muslim. Even cartoon caricature is Muslim. And they're letting you know that Moors are the founders of Islam. They're letting you know that Moors are the founders of Islam. They don't have him wearing some beanie. They don't have him doing salat and none of that. They have him dressed up like a Moor. How we know? Right? Because here's the vest right here. Here's the vest of the Moors that Peter Griffin's wearing. There's the brothers right there in the back with the fezzes on. If you don't claim your stuff, these guys are going to claim your stuff and bury you with it. And to close out, we got a letter from Big Brother Jabbar C. Gaines Ill. And this is a message to the Moors. In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, this is a public notice and a matter of extreme importance. Noble Juali warned the Moors that when the international wheels of commerce come to a complete stop, the Moors will come into power, and then the wheels of industry will restart once again, placing the Moors back as trustees over the world's natural resources. Without a question, this will be a divine transference of earthly authority. With this understanding, Moors must begin to closely monitor world economic events, in particular the trends that are being set by the IMF. because we are moments away from the greatest economic calamity that this country has ever witnessed. The US corporate government, in a vain attempt to remain relevant on the international scene, are now forming a new currency called the SDR, Special Drawing Rights, that will replace the current US note. But in order for this new currency to have international credibility, all the gold and other precious metals must be confiscated from all public domain. This is but only one of the many events that we must prepare for. Drew Ali warned that we must preserve enough food for our families so that we don't make blood skeet from the eating of our own flesh from hunger pains due to our failure to prepare for the worst. I would personally like to advise Moors to visit their local army surplus stores and inquire about the purchasing of MREs, meals ready to eat. These are full course meals that are packaged to preserve its original freshness until the seal is opened and ready to use. I would also like to encourage Moors to compile a survival list consisting of a first aid kit, generators, and other life-saving necessities. The last matter of concern in this open letter to our movement pertains to our being unified in activity. The last matter of concern in this open letter to our movement pertains to our being unified in actively organizing for the rebirth of our international Moorocracy, the Islamic State governed by Moorish nationals. Without unity, failure is imminent. I would like to reiterate that our solidarity is imperative. Let's recommit ourselves to the divine and universal principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. In doing so, victory is certain. May Allah be pleased with our national standards. Islam. Sincerely, Grand Sheikh Jabbar C. Gaines Ill. So as we close out, Moors, keep in mind that system is about to lose its legs fast. And when system loses its legs, all that fiat that you got in the bank saving up, thinking that you're saving up for some retirement or something, you better get it out, because these people are going to jack everything that you have. Because I guarantee that many Moors out there, one, are using European names on all these bank accounts that you have, which is giving these colonizers jurisdiction over your bank account. And two, you didn't reserve your rights when you signed that contract, which gives them jurisdiction to raid your bank account. So if you have any finance sitting in those banks up there, get them out, put them into a trust, and save yourself a little something, because, tomorrow they can say every currency is worth zero, and all that stuff is really going to be just paper that you have. So it's in your best interest to get down with the movement, right? Get in touch with active Moors. You can go to rvbaypublications.com, talk to those Moors. They got nationality cards on their website for you to get. You can go to sevensealspublications.com. Get in touch with Elihu Pleasant Bay, who read the letter, sent it to Obama. He sent them nationality cards. He could do the same with you. Get down with MoorishPublicRecords.com. Go study all those writs, because again, when this stuff starts kicking off, they're going to be coming at you in order to get you to pay their IMF and Federal Reserve International debts that they have floating out there, because you're really the collateral. More so Negro, Black, Colored, African, people than anybody else. If you're in Canaanland, you already know 1704 Eglinton Avenue West. That's where the embassy, that's where the consulate is, for you to seek some remedy for what's about to go down. Now, we're not trying to panic nobody. We're not saying anything's happening tomorrow or nothing like that, but you have to be prepared. Noble Drew Ali said that the Moors have to be prepared, right? If you're not ready, get ready. If you're ready, stay ready, because this thing's about to kick off, right? The pillars that's holding this thing up, Samson's pushing those pillars down right now, and this thing's about to crash, right? If you've seen the news today, you already know that McGinty already gave up his post. He took off because he knows that stuff's about to crash and he don't want to be responsible. You already know what Ford's dealing with, right? With the corporation called Toronto, and now they're trying to call him up that he's alcoholic and all that stuff and he shouldn't be in office. They're trying to find ways to get him up, right? And he's just holding on by fingernails just because, he has checks to get still from certain people, right? But I guarantee you, this thing's about to go down, and we're not suggesting anything, right? We're demanding that people take nationality and birthrights and Noble Drew Ali serious, right? Today's plugs, again, the Red Book. So if you are in the temple, make sure you go talk to your Grand Sheik, Grand Governor, whoever. Make them give you the Red Book. If they tell you that, well, I don't know about that's Adab Chamber stuff and all that, and they're trying to hold back information from you, then go to rvbaypublications.com, get it from there. Go to canaanlandmoors.webs.com. We got it. Get it from here. Right? But go to your temple and demand that you get this. Also, The Spanish Inquisition by Henry Kamen. Right? Some books that we didn't get to read that we want to get on the record too. This is the old version, but contact Brother Ali Melbay, get his book First World Order, right? Pre-colonization of the Americas by African Moors. That's Ali Melbay's book. As well, Civic Lesson Number 1, rvbaypublications.com. Who are the Moorish Americans? Moors defined. And that's Moors Order of the Round Table. And again, you can get that at rvbaypublications.com. And as we do, we'll just close out with the prayer. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Islam, Islam, Islam. Islam to all the Moors online. And if you got time right now, 9:30, Blog Talk, Civil Alert Rising. Something's going to be kicking off there. I didn't see, any posts for the day, but guaranteed 9:30, Civil Alert, and let's keep the knowledge going till midnight. Islam, Moors. Peace and love.